Alright, there she is, fully operational again. I'm making a cut on just the most random scrap I could grab. There's the new end bearing. Working beautifully. Probably cut that bottom off, but I'm gonna leave it for now. It's not hurting nothing. Well, alright. There it is. Fully operational once more. Well, I thought I'd come out and just do a little talk on this. Excuse me. I'm going to wrap up the video a little bit. Just discuss a few things that I would do probably differently if I had to do this job again. Well, first and foremost, I want to talk about just machining that Zamac. And you know, I noted in the other video that it was coming off real stringy and it didn't seem to machine too good. And it does. And you gotta remember, working with hand feeds, you know, this hand wheel here isn't exactly the you know, most sensitive feeding tool. You know, it'd kind of be nice to have a hand wheel on the end of the lead screw here. I've seen that on a few lathes, and I think the Gingri or the Gingri, I can't remember the spelling and I could never pronounce it, but the well-known series of books that teaches you how to build a machine shop by well, basically from scratch. That design has a hand wheel on the lead screw there. Anyhow, oh yes, so back to machining that Zamac. I probably could have done a better job on it. I should have probably played around with the tools a little bit more and maybe did a little bit of grinding. You could probably develop a better tool, or if you're using inserts, I'm sure you'd find something that would machine that stuff beautifully. When I got it done, the Loctite, I machined a slip fit and slipped the gear on, and a little bit of red Loctite, and it's held up quite fine, you know. I just got the lathe together earlier today, and you know, just did this little piece of scrap, and I probably could have chosen a different piece, but I'm kind of getting low on my I ran out of memory there for a second on the camera. Anyhow, as I was saying, I'm kind of getting low on my metal stockpile, so I didn't really want to waste anything just for this test. As you can see, I took just a very, very light cut. So the jury is still out on how well that red Loctite is going to hold up, but I'm fairly confident in it because, you know, believe it or not, red Loctite can be some incredibly strong stuff if used properly and in the right application. And so time will tell if this is the right application or not. Another thing I wanted to mention that now I took a little bit of video of this, but I don't think I'm going to upload it. But what actually happened here is when I was putting this together a couple of days ago, I cinched one of the gear studs down, putting the change gears back on, and I actually cracked my banjo. And so I said, oh shit, and I heard a pop, and I got the flashlight out, and I went ahead and started looking around, and sure enough, there was a crack right there. So rather than take it apart, I decided, well, let me go look for the part real quick. And I actually managed to find one locally for a very reasonable cost, and I purchased it. And let's see here if I can... There it is. So, here's my original. And actually, when I took it out, I never noticed this before, but I'm not the first one to break that. And it's been, this has been brazed back together at some point in the past. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to, sometime, when I get around to it, I'm going to try and go ahead and braze that just so I have a spare. If you have one of these lathes, be very careful if you're, you know, changing out your gears to set up for a thread or for a different feed or anything like that. And another thing I want to mention, and a planned upgrade to this soon in the future, is, let's see if I can get the light over here, is a couple of these bolts that are holding the gear studs on are kind of a little bit buggered up on the heads, so I'm going to remachine some new ones, but they're going to be longer. I'm going to get castle nuts to go on, and just some pins. I forget what you call them, but what the name of this pin is, but it's got a straight side, it curves around, and it's got a little hump and out like that. I'm going to get some of those pins and stick them in, and that way, because these don't need to be really tight, I just tighten them down so that they won't back off when I'm running the lathe, and I have gears, you know, all of a sudden spilling out, or God knows what could happen when that happens. But other than that, there's no reason for them to be tight. So these can just be hand tight and with that pin in there, and I won't risk breaking my banjo again. I'm going to talk a little bit about the end bearing over here that I made up today. And I made this in the lathe. And this is all done with, you know, feeding by hand. I do not have a power cross feed on this lathe, but I wouldn't have been able to use it anyways because this part wasn't there. So this is basically, this plate here was a heat sink that actually had the fins soldered onto it. So I just went ahead and heated it up one day, pulled the fins off, and threw it in the stockpile. And that just ended up being a piece that would work for this. That was the thickest piece of aluminum I could find to make this part out of. The original idea was, and what I still may do, is I wanted to take this brass bar here and make a bushing and slip it in there and either Loctite it or maybe just a press fit, or even use a set screw. I hadn't quite decided yet, but put that in there so in case, because you got to remember on this design, this was meant to break in case something happened, and you never know what the future may hold. I can be careful, but hey, I may not, you know, be the last owner of this lathe. Somebody else may own this lathe one day, you know. So I'm gonna probably redo that block at some point. That's why have decided to leave that on there in case I just need a little extra room. I probably won't need that much, but you know, as I said earlier, it's not hurting anything by being there. This plate is thicker than the original bracket, so as a result I swapped out the bolts, and these are just two big, actually quite large-headed screws that I don't know where they came from. They were in one of the many little tiny drawers over there full of hardware on the dark bench because I don't have those lights on. I tend to use a lot of task lighting in my shop. Yeah, so I think that that for the most part sums it up for now as far as this project goes. Still want to raise up this cabinet. I've decided I'm going to keep the lathe on here because it stores. I'm not going to open it up right now. Maybe I'll do another video on that. But it stores everything for the lathe and the tooling in it very nicely. I'll probably add on the inside of some of the doors maybe a couple of pieces of plywood so I can have a rack for the change gears and keep them all nicely organized, and you know, a place to hang different wrenches and stuff like that. It's too low, but what I've decided here is, or what I figured out here is, these legs, what I can do is I can just get some, I'm thinking I'm going to get some black iron pipe. It's longer. I'm just going to slide it all the way up in them legs, and maybe put some flanges on the end, and that'll give me a thread right there so that I can basically effectively making leveling screws for the feet. Give me a little room, more room under the thing, so that I can maybe slide some pins or something under there for storage, or maybe keep some stock under there. I don't know. Might want to put a thick wood top on this sometime in the future, because you know it overhangs, but only by about that much. And well, hell, I don't think that's too much to worry about there. But yeah, I want to bring it up to where I can stand at the lathe and work it more comfortably. Although I do enjoy sitting at the lathe sometime, but I can always get a higher stool. I can't get shorter legs, nor would I want to. As an aside, this little piano bench here, old beat-up piano bench, has made a nice little lathe seat while I've been doing this work. And boy, let me tell you, you're sitting making, you know, facing all these sides and squaring up this stock and everything, using hand feeds on a light lathe like this, and you know, yeah, you're gonna want to sit down and kind of take your time, because it's gonna take you some time. And every side of each of these pieces, that's 12 sides, had to be faced. Well, I'm lying. I skipped this side and the bottom side on this piece of stock because this came off of a piece of plate, a little cut-off piece that I'd picked up somewhere, and that had already been cut with a fly cutter or something, so it was already a nice machine surface, so I left that alone. Nonetheless, fair amount of work. Well, yeah, I think I've said my piece for now. Gonna pull this motor, replace this board with a nicer piece of plywood. I have some nice cabinet grade plywood that I'm gonna cut a piece out of for that. Gonna do a little work on the motor. Basically just pull the bearings and overhaul them. It's not been done in God knows how long, and I've been lazy about it and haven't done it. Probably reroute this wire through that tube as well, and have it come out the bottom. I made this mounting bracket for this lamp here. This lamp came with the lathe, but I've seen the originals of these. There was another one of these articulating balls down here at the bottom on the end that had been broke at some point, and the guy had just basically welded a plate to the bottom of it and screwed it on there, and it was terrible. This was rigid, and I couldn't swing the lamp at all. So I went ahead and made a really over-engineered mounting bracket for it because I could. And yeah, that's all made out of one piece of steel. That is not a plate welded to a bar. That was one solid slug that I machined out, as was this screw. Yeah, I tend to over-engineer things a bit. But anyhow, that'll last, you know, a millennia, so I'm not worried about it. And when you over-engineer things, you know, you usually don't have to worry about them breaking down again. So, peace of mind. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. You know, I hope somebody gets helped with a little bit of the information in this video. Or maybe get some ideas. If you like it, you know, like it. Leave a comment. Subscribe. I've got some more projects coming up here in the near future. I've got my mini camelback over here. That is in need of a little bit of attention. And I've also got my little Perkins power hacksaw over here that is also in need of a little bit of attention. I'll go more into that in a future video. Enjoy and have a nice day.